The ANC's National Working Committee met yesterday. For more on the outcomes of the meeting, we cross now to our reporter, Samkele Maseko, who is with the ANC Deputy Secretary General, Jessie Duarte. Over to you.
Yes, Nompumelelo, you remember, Nompu, that the ANC had its National Working Committee meeting yesterday, which happens fortnightly. They had a virtual NWC. It comes also at the backdrop of this weekend of the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa issuing out a letter to ANC members speaking on the allegations of corruption that have bedeviled the governing party when it comes to the issues of the COVID-19 funds and the distribution and tenders of personal protection equipment, and also appealing to ANC members to let their conscience speak to them and not be involved in nefarious business dealings or any forms of corruption. I'm going to bring in the ANC's Deputy Secretary General, Jessie Duarte, to further expand on the issue of the President's letter to ANC members and leaders. DSG, the President issuing an impassioned letter this weekend to ANC members at the backdrop of campaigns such as one may not repeat that particular word on Twitter that says the ANC must go away, and your leaders also being embroiled in allegations of corruption, to mention but a few, and also the Secretary General's children being mentioned, Kusela Diko in Gauteng, the MEC of Health, Dr. Zandile Gumede as well. What is actually happening?
Well, let me first start with where we began yesterday as the NWC. Firstly, we wish to congratulate the government for rolling out the PPE to a large extent throughout the country, and also the additional assistance to unemployed people. 350 Rand a month is not money, but it is helping people. And over 4 million people have been able to receive this amount. And if you add that 4 million to the 16 million that already received grants, we're way above any other country that we know of our size providing a social net of some sort. We discussed that at length, and we thought that we should say to the government that the ANC is quite pleased with that intervention. We also thank the frontline workers, the nurses and the doctors. I think that we must recognize that there are people in this country who are working tirelessly to ensure that COVID-19 does not expand. And the fact that we've now been able to go over the serious area, and we are in level 2, it opens up businesses. It enables people, and in particular day earners, people who earn their living from working in the street. So we discussed all of that, and we will be discussing more of it at the NEC over the weekend. We also then looked at implementation of our 54th conference resolution, which is very clear that if, well, let me start somewhere else. There's an implied prospect in the constitution of the ANC, Rule 25, all of it, is very clear. If you have done anything that brings the ANC into disrepute, the onus is on you in 2 regards. Number 1, present yourself to the Integrity Commission, give an explanation. If your explanation is not acceptable or sufficient, you must also expect to go through an internal disciplinary process of the ANC. And of course, if you have acted illegally, unlawfully, the ANC supports the right of the state to actually follow through as they would with any other citizen. So there's no question about that. We also very happy, as implied in the President's letter, that the organs of the state that deal with criminality have now begun to become completely independent or away from any interference by this or that political entity or whatever else there might be. That we feel is moving very well, and we hope that it continues to deepen. So coming back to the ANC itself, if one looks at the 15-odd people that stole food parcels, it is such a sad reality that those 15 people undermine the fact that millions of South Africans who are poor actually received food parcels from the state through SASSA. And those 15 people, of which only 7 were found actually had done something atrocious and are facing criminal charges, are the ones who created a narrative that says that everybody is stealing, and it's not everybody. And we must not make that sound like everybody is doing the same thing wrong. What happened in Gauteng, and the Gauteng PEC had acted correctly, and all the processes are now being followed through, including the state acting through the SIU and investigating further. And we're very happy about that. We'll make sure that within the ANC, the formal disciplinary code is followed. So the Gauteng decision was absolutely spot on. Obviously, Samkele, you're going to ask about Zandile Gumede, and let me help you before you go there. We've discussed with the KZN comrades, and they explained their situation, that when Comrade Zandile and others were accused and then charged for misdemeanors in the eThekwini municipality, there was no internal process to remove her from the ANC. She became a backbencher in the city. So she's been there for months now. They needed to move Comrade Zandile out of the city into the province and allow for the space to be taken up for them to do their service delivery in the... Now, we haven't understood it quite well, but what we are asking is that they come and explain themselves to the NEC. So that will happen. They will come and explain themselves to the NEC. And I must say this, you see, when Comrade Zandile was left in the city, there wasn't much of a noise made about it publicly, which is also quite worrisome. But she's taken to the province and boom, it's an overwhelming reaction, and we don't blame the reaction. We think it's correct that civil society must ask questions, that the media must ask questions. We will also expect a thorough explanation when we get to the weekend. It's the only way we can move forward. It would have been better if Comrade Zandile, right at the beginning, had used the resolution at the 54th conference, excused herself until such a time as her case was over. You know, there are many leaders in the ANC who've done that, who have said, look, I'd rather give myself the time to fight, let this be over, let this pass over, and I will come back. If you're innocent, and the unfortunate reality is that people are first judged in the space of public opinion, and the courts might go differently. And there was another case in KZN where that did happen, where this comrade, who is a senior cadre, excused himself. And then the case was dismissed from the court. But by the time the case was dismissed, he had already been removed from the ANC's lists and all of other matters, and then he had to be reinstated. Now, I think there is a bit of that argument playing itself. Nevertheless, having said that, the President's letter is clear. It is asking the cadreship of the movement, if you have been accused, if you have been charged, if you've done anything that you believe you may be accused of or charged for, please make yourself available to the Integrity Commission. If you go there and your explanation is not good enough, you must also expect to go through the disciplinary procedures internally and live with the consequences. And I think that is the bottom line. The ANC is very clear, and the President says a line in the sand has been drawn, and that is true. So we haven't discussed everything, but I can assure you that the NEC will discuss very deeply. And we won't only discuss corruption, but we're also going to talk about the needs of our people: water, electricity, housing, poverty. The depths of poverty in our country have reached absolutely unacceptable levels, and the social net that the fiscus can provide is not enough to undo poverty. So we're going to have to do much, much more in terms of jacking up the economy to undo some of this.
DSG, I want to stick on the point of Zandile Gumede and the letter that you are holding of President Ramaphosa.
Yes.
You say that Zandile Gumede's move from the eThekwini Council to the provincial legislature, you're not thoroughly happy with the explanation provided by the office bearers of KwaZulu-Natal, namely the provincial chairperson Sehlezi Galala and the provincial secretary Mdumiseni Ntuli. Why didn't you buy their argument of moving Zandile Gumede to the legislature?
I didn't say we were not unhappy. We wanted a better understanding, because the explanation I heard from the public spokesperson of KZN was that we did this so that we could service our people properly. It is done in the interest of the people of KwaZulu-Natal. That's the only explanation we're going to ask for. If you do something in the interest, you must explain that interest. Given the public outcry about this, we believe that it is correct that we discuss this thing at the NEC, and it will be discussed.
Morally speaking, should Zandile Gumede appeal to her conscience and step aside from that position of being a member of the provincial legislature until her case of corruption when it comes to the waste tender of over 200 and something million rands in eThekwini is done and dusted?
I think that is something we will discuss at the NEC very carefully, because if I say anything now, I'm prejudging an outcome that might have to happen at the NEC, and I'm also prejudging what you call morally speaking. I think that we must tread with extreme correctness here. There is an ANC resolution that calls on comrades to say to them, if you've been charged, if you've been accused, this is what the letter says of the president, charged, accused, or if you know that you've been involved in something which might bring the ANC into disrepute, kindly step aside until such time as your name is cleared. It has consequences, because your name cleared part is a difficulty, as had been showed in the case before in KZN, where a comrade was charged with murder and then the case was dropped. But by the time the case was dropped, he had already lost credibility, left his position, you know, and rolling that back because of an accusation is problematic. So I think that we're going to discuss this very thoroughly. I can assure you that we have no intention of sweeping anything under the carpet. We have no intention of leaving it hanging in the air. We want it to be resolved. It must be resolved. It cannot go on like this.
So essentially this weekend the NEC will decide on the fate of the former eThekwini mayor and the new member of the provincial legislature of KwaZulu-Natal, Zandile Gumede, just to get you correctly.
I can't say that. Those are your words. The NEC will discuss it very thoroughly. And whatever the outcome is, we hope that people will live with that outcome. And it might not be a good outcome, it might be a very positive outcome, but it will be a balanced one. It will be an outcome that the NEC would have given every single thought to. We do not only have this matter to discuss. We're not only going to discuss corruption. We are also going to discuss the many other matters that we face right now, which are huge. The most important thing on the table at this point in time is how do we, as the ANC, ensure the public of South Africa that our intention to correct ourselves is a genuine intention. It is not just a flimsy reason to have a meeting. We're having a special meeting, in fact, to discuss a number of other issues, but this one will be on the agenda.
DSG, this talk of the ANC cleansing itself has been there since time immemorial. One can go back to the political report that was delivered by the then president of the ANC. One may have been a kid back then, but was listening attentively. That would be former President Mbeki at the Polokwane conference of the ANC suffering from sins of incumbency, corruption creeping in, manipulation of your own processes. Corruption has reached an all-time high within your own party, within the governing party. How do you cleanse yourself of this practically?
The only way to cleanse you of any misdemeanor is to actually deal with it properly and not deal with it from a viewpoint of a quick decision. And if we are correct in the way we deal with things, we will make sure that Samkele can't accuse somebody of having done something wrong without giving everyone a proper hearing in that. Then you judge Once you've listened to all sides of the story, then you judge. And if the facts prove that a person has stolen from the coffers of the state, then there's no space for them in the ANC. That is a clear fact. But if, on the other hand, as has been the case with a number of comrades, where we're going towards a local government election time, and in this period of moving towards local government elections, a number of people are accused of a number of things, and one finds that it's a counter-campaigning against an individual. And I'm not suggesting that that is the case of the individual you were discussing. I'm suggesting that we're also alive to that reality. So cleansing is exactly that. You know, please, comrade, if you've done this thing, you're going to go. And it has to happen. It is no longer a negotiable matter. It sounds harsh, but you know, we belong to a movement. We don't belong to a political party. We made promises to the people of this country to develop and transform our society. People might argue that some of the things we've seen happening we got from the old days. You know, the networks that are there, very deep networks of corruption, with business being a primary culprit in this instance. And when people are very, very poor and you put temptation in front of them, you have to be very strong not to be tempted. Very, very strong. But and if you and many people don't believe they've done anything incorrect. Many people in this country are, and so it's not an ANC issue. It is time that we as a nation discuss how to roll back this idea that you can do anything you want, in any way you want. You can grab it in any way you want. As people have said, it's our time to eat. These are the wrong things that we will correct and want to correct. I know that also you're going to raise the VBS matter. I anticipate you so well. You know, I have to say to you, Samkele, that when the VBS matter came up, it has occupied so many meetings. In fact, every NEC meeting of the ANC has been occupied with this matter, primarily because of who lost what they lost. It was very poor people. So then the matter goes to a court of law, and the court says expunge all reference to an individual from your records. Now, whatever we do as the ANC now, that reality legally is what we are faced with. That the individuals' names have been expunged, and we went through a process with connecting with structures. We met the PEC, we met the regions, we've met with the minority shareholders, met with the South African Council of Churches, we've met with everybody that we could meet with. And the NEC will have to take a position on the weekend after the report is tabled by the SG on where to go now. But the fundamental fact is that the matter went to a court of law, and the court of law instructed us, all of us, including the media, to expunge the name from the report of the South African Reserve Bank.
So essentially, DSG, you are saying that I'm going to name the individual because it's there in the report, we've reported on it. That Caesar's reference as the kingpin and the person who was part and parcel of getting municipalities to invest in that bank has been, his reference by Advocate Terry Matau in that report has been removed by the court.
The court has instructed it to be removed. Yes.
So you as the ANC were embroiled in consultation with your structures. So when are they going back to their respective positions as Treasurer of the province and as Deputy Chair, respectively, Florence and Danny?
Right. The NEC will receive the report over the weekend and make a final decision. A decision does exist. A decision is that they go back because 2 years had elapsed. There was no internal disciplinary hearing. And now with the court decision and the fact that the NEC had instructed that we engage with structures, that report will go back to the NEC, and I would believe that it would be implemented. The decision of the NEC has to be implemented. It can't be held back much, much longer. It would not be correct to do so. It would be unjust to do so. The man took his position to a court of law. He didn't get satisfaction in his own organization, and he took it outside of the organization and got an answer. You know, Samkele, sometimes one must swallow the bitter pills that come with jurisprudence.
When it comes to the issue of Limpopo, you may not want to put it on the record, but it's very clear that there is a raging battle going on in that province, particularly between their provincial secretary, Soviet Lechanyana, and Denim Caesar, the provincial treasurer, who was suspended, who's now a topic of discussion. And you've got a conundrum where it's reported that the premier of the province barged into a meeting and was upset that the ANC officials held a meeting with representatives or shareholders of this particular bank of VBS, and he was not involved. What's actually the bottom line of this battle that's raging in Limpopo?
No, I'm not going to discuss this battle. I think that the ANC will discuss, if there is a battle internally, how to resolve it. On the issue of the barging in, we saw that as a report in the Sowetan. As far as we know, everybody was invited. We have records to show that all members of the PEC, including the chairperson of the province, was invited to come to the meeting. He arrived a bit late. He did not barge in. He arrived a bit late. So I can't really comment on a Sowetan report, as juicy as it might be. And nor will I comment on, inflections between members of the ANC. They exist all the time. We will find a way to resolve that. And I don't believe that the issue should be reduced to a contest between this provincial secretary and the treasurer. He is the treasurer of the province. The other person is the provincial secretary of the province. These matters will have to come to a conclusion. As you say, it is reported. It has not been reported to us officially that there is such a problem that exists.
South Africans are looking for the deputy president of the country and the deputy president of the ANC.
Yes.
Mabuza. Where is he?
He's been ill. He's well now. He attended the National Working Committee meeting yesterday. Looks very well. Is up and about. COVID has no respect for who it attacks and how it attacks people. The deputy president is fine. He's back on his legs. He came looking extremely well yesterday. He's back. He's back.
Did he have COVID-19?
I don't think so. The deputy president has an ailment, or a chest ailment, that's been ongoing for some time, but he's fine. He looks extremely healthy. This is what I can assure you. People do get ill, and they must be allowed to get ill, and they must be allowed to heal, and he has healed. I know that you guys reported that he died.
Well, it was at the SABC. Well, thank you very much.
Like you did with Mantash.
Thank you very much, DSG.
Thank you, guys.
That was the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC saying that this weekend's special ANC of the ANC will look into the corruption allegations bedeviling the governing party and also speak on the public outcry that has come to the fore with the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal deploying its former mayor of eThekwini, that would be Zandile Gumede, to the provincial legislature, and also a final decision will be made when it comes to the future of Denim Caesar, the provincial treasurer of Limpopo, and Florence Radzilani, who were implicated in the VBS Bank heist, with the South Gauteng High Court ruling that that particular report by Advocate Terry House, particular section relating to Denim Caesar, be expunged from that particular report.
Thanks very much for that wide-ranging interview, Samkele. My colleague there, Samkele Maseko.